Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the wheat group. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared. I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles sort of thing. Sorry?
The servicing costs on the debt that you're going to have to carry, that you're adding to now, right?
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Where's the funds?
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean? Oh, Justin, you're awake. You made it. Have a seat. Have a coffee. You need some. Wakey time.
Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription. So we cut it. It's only $13.99 a month that we're saving, but every little bit helps.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody. Yeah, that's all that's coming off. There's nothing else coming off, yeah. I'm not Justin Trudeau here. Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
Going on, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Fringe. Welcome to a rando weekly stream here, sitting in on The Fringe tonight. Just myself. Mrs. Fringe won't be joining me on this stream, of course, because that's Fridays here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe. But welcome into everybody who's in the stream. I hope you're having a great evening as you join us in the channel. Great news as we get started, since it's the Christmas season. I know a lot of people get annoyed with the festive AF hat, while people who have a stick up their butt. I got some good news, some good Christmas news. If you haven't paid attention in recent years, there's a classic Christmas song, Baby It's Cold Outside, that has been removed and pulled from radio stations for being misogynistic. Well, I'm happy to report that a new version of the song has been released this year, and they've addressed the issues. In fact, some of the lyrics started with, I really can't stay because baby, it's cold outside. I must go away, baby, it's cold outside. And then it gets to the point where she says, I really must go. He says, baby, it's cold outside. She says, the answer is no. And then the man says, well, then get outside, go ahead. You know what? I know you're a strong, independent woman. You don't need no man. And quite frankly, I don't want to be labeled a misogynist. So they've exchanged the lyrics to make it more holiday suitable for Canadians. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a good old roll call going on in the chat and see what we can get happening in this stream. Get those thumbs up in the chat, folks. We're just at about 250 viewers on the multi-stream right now. Let's see how many people we can get in here. Let me know if it's your first time watching and if we can get one person from every province in the country watching it on this stream. Let's start it off with Goldwing Ben becoming a new member of the Patriots Club. Thank you so much. Welcome to the stream. Great to have you in here. We've got Goldwing Ben also joining us from Fermont, Quebec. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. Let's see. Mrs. Fringe is chiming in from upstairs. Sorry, there's a delay today and it's erasing everything. Mrs. Fringe is chiming in from upstairs tonight. The kids got Christmas concerts all week long and things going on. So she won't be here tonight, but that's okay. We got Derek coming in from Sydney, Nova Scotia. Trudeau's Akami joining us from Calgary, of course. We've got Mystical coming in from the vents in Nakatomi Tower. I guess you know what a TV dinner feels like, but that's okay. Welcome into the stream. It's great to have you here, Mystical. Welcome in. J-By coming in from Montreal. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. Airworks coming in from Kingston, Ontario. We've got Lee coming in from Edmonton. Welcome into the stream. We've got Jason coming in from Lagdon. David Brewer, Springfield, Missouri, USA. Welcome into all of our MAGA patriots in the stream. Welcome, and it's great to have you here. All of our American viewers, we love you guys. Susan Collicutt jumping in from Port Alberni, sending love. Welcome in. It's great to have you. Tobias coming in from Alberta. T. Rich joining us once again from the mountains of Alberta. Welcome in. We've got Jancor coming in from Ottawa, Ontario. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. We got Ryan coming in from Ontario as well. Lucas C. from Burnaby, BC. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Welcome in. It's great to have you here, Luca. We got Mary Louise coming in from BC. Welcome in. Great to have you here. We got Tinfoil Hat coming in from Saskatchewan. Welcome in. Great to have you here. We've got Mike joining us from Quebec. Once again, great to have you in here. Dilligaff Brothers Contracting joining us from Surrey, BC. Some goof tried breaking into my truck. I'm sorry to hear that. Typical in BC. It must be a Wednesday, right? I mean, that's hopefully everything's okay. Xylo from freezing effing cold Selkirk. Welcome in. It's great to have you here, Xylo. But I do love Selkirk. I got to say, it's a great town in Manitoba. Absolutely love it. Danny coming in from Devon, Alberta. Welcome in. Paul saying, I love the festive hat. Paul, this makes you a misogynist. This makes you an unholy racist. But welcome into the stream. I'm only poking at fun. I've had a lot of people telling me in the comments that saying you're festive AF is against Christmas or something. I don't know. I like to make jokes. Let's go. That's what keeps this channel fun. Brett coming in from Saskatoon. Welcome in. We got Island Girl coming in. First time here. Welcome in. Nobody forgets your first, but welcome into the Fringe. It's great to have you here. We've got a Flight for Freedom coming in from Halifax. Welcome in. Charles joining us from Rainbow Lake, Alberta. Great to have you here. We got Jacques coming in from Coopus Casing, Ontario. Great to have you here. Johnny Moosemeat coming in from Quinzel, BC. Welcome in. Or Quisnell, sorry. We've got Marika coming in once again from Muddiel. Welcome in. Great to have you here. We got good old Ingrid and Charlie coming in from Okotoks, Alberta with the LFGs. Welcome in, Ingrid. Great to have you guys here. Hope you're on the mend. Hope everything's well. We got Island Girl coming in BC. Nelson coming in from New Brunswick. We've got Robert joining us from Hamilton, Ontario. We've got a Private coming in from a place with no name in BC. That's okay. Those are the best places to be these days. We've got Shannon joining us from Banff, Alberta. Man, what a gorgeous town. Great to have you in here. Resolute Ronan coming in from Merlin, Ontario. Once again, we got Bill Joe coming in from London, Ontario. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. Mike coming in from Kitchener, Ontario. We've got James joining us from Sudbury. Just me coming in from Fort Lauderdale. God, I love Florida. It's a great state. Welcome in. Great to have you here. We got Steve coming in. Good day. From Snowda, Ontario, home of the Liars. Wow. It's great to have you here. Great to have you here. Matt Schwab. Is he fighting with somebody or is this directed at me? I don't know. I hope Matt's okay. Everybody send Matt some Kleenex. I hope he's okay. Trevor coming in from Carbon, Alberta. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. We've got Joanne coming in from Stony Plain, Alberta. Love that town. Hopefully we can get out there soon. Murray coming in from Edmonton, home of the two Randys. Oh, don't say his name more than 3 times or he shows up and he asks for more money. We've got Queen Esther coming in from Ontario. Great to have you here. CB, first time here on a Wednesday. Oh, shut up, CB. Come on. From Oil frickin' Berta. We love CB. He's a great guy. I love working alongside him and he sends me a lot of news articles. This guy, let me tell you something. He's got his ear down on the tracks. Let me tell you, he's a great guy. Good to have you in here, CB. Just me. Good to see you. It's good to see you in the stream. Welcome in. It's Alice is coming in from good old cold Winnipeg. Come on. I love Winnipeg. It's my hometown. It's not that bad. Lauren coming in from Clearwater, BC. Bill from South Surrey. Mike in from Tabor, Alberta. I bet you got some good corn with you. No, it's out of season, but welcome in. Great to have you here. Ryan coming in from Brooks, Alberta. Kaylin coming in from New Brunswick. Chris from Edmonton. Paul from Tumbler Ridge. Guys, this roll call just keeps going on and on and on. We got to get into the stream. We got to get in it. We're almost 500 viewers strong. We're only 10 minutes in. Keep hitting those thumbs up if you're joining us on YouTube. If you're not and you're on the multicast, come into YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Join us here on the channel. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and we're going to have some fun too. This is kind of Wednesdays when we do streams when Mrs. Fringe isn't here. We kind of have some fun. We do some laid-back Q&A, but there is some news. We do got to get to the news, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of that news with you. Justin Trudeau, this video title is not clickbait. I've noticed this morning, and again, I will have a full video covering it, but we are going to talk about it tonight because I couldn't wait. He's given us a slippery gift this Christmas, and it comes in the wrappings of debt. Good old debt. Don't we love debt? But first, we have to get to a pressing matter. If you missed the vote of no confidence in the House of Commons earlier this week, Jagmeet Singh, running out the back door like the coward he is, he sat down and took a I don't know if they were at like a whining press gallery, or what was going on here. But Jagmeet Singh dropping an absolutely racist statement. We'll have a video on this as well, but I want to cover this here in the stream tonight. Let's take a look at what Jagmeet Singh had to say.
I am now doubly committed to equal voice. I'm doubly committed to equal voice because I'm a proud father of 2 daughters. And one of those... Thank you. And the second daughter that we were waiting for is here with me tonight. So if you hear some cries, I think she's just waiting for me to get back to her. So I got to say, I have seen, if I can be really blunt, I've seen a lot of older white men fail upwards again and again.
I'm sorry. What was that? What was that? Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back. Let's play that again. I want to make sure we heard that correctly.
I have seen, if I can be really blunt, I've seen a lot of older white men fail upwards again and again. And that is just going to continue unless we actually try to change things. So I fundamentally believe if you don't change things, you're going to have the same system. And this,
you know, it's funny that this sellout says something to this extent. You're going to have the same system if something doesn't change. Kind of like when you scurried out of the House of Commons when you had the opportunity to force an election and get rid of the party that's unanimously destroying and breaking this country, right? I mean, you're talking about white people falling uphill in government. So when you say that something needs to change, are we talking about bringing in more of Jagmeet's people to Canada to fix the system? Do we need more K-Stan folks in the House of Commons? Is that what Jagmeet's saying? I really can't tell what he's saying here. But regardless, this is the question that I have to ask. Is it not racist the minute you call out white people in a speech? I want people to think about this for a second, because it seems like the only time you're racist is if you're white talking about another race. I always thought racism meant you're being discriminatory based on somebody's skin color, which Jagmeet is doing here. Where are the headlines in mainstream media calling him a racist? They like to use that word. We all know they don't know the clear definition of that word, but nobody's calling Jagmeet Singh a racist. Why not? That's as racist as you can get. Think about for a second, if Pierre Poilievre went on stage and he said, we bring a whole bunch of insert skin-colored people here to Canada and they ruin our country. And that's not going to change unless we toughen up our borders. The headlines would be smeared with Pierre Poilievre as a racist. Pierre Poilievre calls out nationality. Pierre Poilievre goes on racial tirade. It would be everywhere. Everywhere. So why is it okay for Jagmeet Singh to call out white people and say, if I could be blunt here, you're not being blunt, you're being racist? Now, I don't typically want to touch down on anything else that he says here, because we all know that Jagmeet Singh, whatever comes out of his mouth is just bullshit anyways. We all know that we're not buying what he's selling, and that anything he is selling is sellout. It's all for him. It's his benefit. It's the hypocrisy of the NDP party. In fact, Jack Layton is rolling over in his grave. I miss Jack Layton. You know, Jack Layton was about people. He was about workers. Jagmeet Singh represents nothing of the average working person in Canada. He's here for himself. Linda saying our mainstream media is racist. Well, of course they are. J-By saying, well, it's the race card and it's getting thin because it's just so disingenuous. The problem is that if I said, I agree with the Freedom Convoy, people say you're a racist and a misogynist and a sexist. And they throw that term around. They turn around the term racist all the time when it has nothing to do with skin color. Yet Jagmeet Singh comes out and says, I've seen enough white people ruining the country, and all of a sudden, no racism. No racist label. Reg hits it on the head. I want every color and race here as long as they want to be Canadian. And that's kind of the funny part about that conversation is that like, again, as I grew up as a kid, I was always taught not to see skin color, not to see black or white. You're supposed to just treat everybody with respect. You're supposed to be a human being. And anytime anyone uttered any remark of somebody based on the color of their skin, they were shunned for it. They were treated appropriately. Told you can't talk that way about people. The problem is that when you look at the divisiveness, when you look at the chaos that is created in this country by these so-called would-be leaders that preach from their ivory towers and say that, well, we can be racist because we're a different nationality, and because we're not white, it's okay for us to be racist. This is where I don't agree with the media excusing this. In fact, I've already sent emails to those in Parliament that I keep in touch with. I've already asked them, why is this not being shared everywhere? Why is this not on the headlines of newspapers? Why is this not being discussed in the House of Commons? Jagmeet Singh owes every white person in Canada an apology. He'll never give it to us. I mean, come on. We're never going to get it. We're never going to get it. Race is just a social construct. I agree. But from a party that preaches diversity, equity, inclusion, that talks about all these things they care about for people to be equal, to be fair, and then he says things like this. It's the hypocrisy that I'm pointing out here. I really don't care if Jagmeet Singh wants to go off against white people. That speaks to his character, not mine. It's I seen Callie. I'm assuming you've said that's because of the pinball machine in the background. Yeah, fart knocker. The hypocrisy with DEI, and again, I want to showcase another form of this DEI. I know everybody hates hearing Justin Trudeau, but he was at the same event. Now I don't know what event this was, so I apologize because it seemed to be a whining session that was broadcast on CPAC. But listen to Justin Trudeau talking about how terrible it is. Now, keep in mind, he just went to Mar-a-Lago and sniffed Donald Trudeau's butt, telling him they want to work together. He wants no tariffs. He wants to make sure that we can keep our strong relationship with the United States. And Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago and said he's got to stay in a crappy hotel. He has no respect for Justin. I wonder why. Listen to Justin here talking about how terrible it is that a female wasn't elected president in the last election.
Now, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Is that not the most disgusting thing you've ever heard? I'm going to sit on a stage and pout because Donald Trump is president of the United States. And I'm going to be a feminist for as long as it takes. Who cares about feminism? Our country is at the brink of disaster. People can't put food on their table. People can't pay their electric bills. People can't live. But hey, let's be feminists. Let's worry about women's being president, right? Because that's what matters, isn't it? It matters how people identify. It doesn't matter how you pay your bills. It doesn't matter how you get along in life or that you have a roof over your head or a job to go to every day, right? But here it is. He's a goof. I didn't realize up until a few years ago, by the way, calling somebody a goof is apparently one of the biggest insults you can hurl at somebody. I always thought, just that means they're like a klutz or something. But apparently it's a no-no. You're not supposed to call people that, especially in Canada. Jolie, the PM, is a woman that will not be there for the new strategy. I've heard them saying that she's apparently going to take over for Trudeau. It's not going to happen. I mean, Trudeau's mistress will not be prime minister. It's not going to happen. We have to talk about Trudeau, though, because I noticed something today, and I am putting a video together for it for tomorrow. Where's my tweet? I have to pull up. Sorry, guys. I was showing you those videos. And I do have to pull up this tweet because Justin Trudeau's GST holiday is on the way, or his supposed GST holiday is on the way. Keep in mind, this is not a complete break from GST. It is merely a few savings on things like vegetable trays, potato chips, things you would normally buy if you're having people over for Christmas or for any holidays that you celebrate. It's a discount on Christmas trees. It's a GST discount on board games and electronics. But there's a catch. There's a big, big catch. This is Justin Trudeau's middle finger. This joke, as it's labeled in the title, that he gave to Canada for Christmas, to the tune of $6 billion. Keep in mind that this is debt we are taking on by pausing this, and the laughter of Trudeau is coming in a second. I'm reinforcing what a problem it already was. $6 billion. This is the same as CERB, where it's not really free money. It's not a break that the government is going to take out of their budget. If you saw today's video outlining just where a quarter of our budget goes to, if you haven't checked that out yet, you should. When we talk about NGOs, when we talk about waste that goes through this country, we have to address that this is $6 billion that you and I as taxpayers are going to be on the hook for products that most of us aren't going to be purchasing anyways this Christmas. What's funny is that I was out at my local Costco today, and I had to pick up a few things getting close to the holidays again. And I noticed something. If you guys ever go Black Friday shopping, and you'll notice the old scam they pull on Black Fridays where a TV's on sale for $3.99, but you pull the tag back and find out it was $3.99 regular priced anyways. So there really is no savings. Well, I'm here to burst Justin Trudeau's bubble, ladies and gentlemen. This GST holiday, the joke is on us because we're not actually saving anything, even if you're buying those products. I want to show you my tweet that I sent out today after I got back from Costco. Oh, you can't really see it, can you? Let's make that a little bigger. Let's see if that makes things better on the screen. I kid you not. While at Costco this morning, I noticed they're raising the prices on items like potato chips that Justin Trudeau's so-called GST holiday covers on an average of 50 cents a bag. The stores are pissed about the cost to change their systems for 2 months, so they pass it on to you. You're not saving anything. What a joke. So what I noticed when I went through my local Costco, and keep in mind, people say, well, the price of food is going up. I talked to one of my good colleagues about this. In my local Costco, my kids go through Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar chips. So does Mrs. Fringe. Like nothing. They love it. They love these kettle cooked chips. And usually we pick up a giant bag and split it amongst the kids' lunches a few days a week or whatever. But anytime I've picked up those bags for the last year, they've been $7.99 at our local Costco, which I thought was already expensive because they used to be $4.99 before just inflation. I noticed them changing the prices getting close to the 15th. I believe it's the 15th that Justin Trudeau's GST holiday takes hold of the nation. But people were changing all the prices. Now people say, well, it's just 50 cents. You have to realize that covers the GST difference. So they look at it. This is the problem with CEOs. This is the problem with business. And it's the problem with government. I'm going to get to where this is the problem with government in a second. When they see a savings, they say, well, people are saving that money, so let's boost the price and we'll just make more profit. When you go up 50 cents a bag, stores and retailers are already fed up that they've said there's an astronomical amount of work, especially small business, to have to set up their systems to discount the GST off of certain items. It's a huge hassle for them over Justin Trudeau's vote buying scheme. But now when you raise the price, you're not actually saving anything. In fact, you're paying more. And this is the one thing I've always said about Pierre Poilievre when he cuts the tax, when he axes the tax. There has to be, and this is where this is a failure on the government. Justin Trudeau, if he actually cared about saving people money, even if it was on stupid products, should have said, we're going to cut the GST, but we're also going to put in some form of legislation that retailers are not allowed to raise their prices on those items. Something along those lines. I know they can't do that. I know that doesn't make it free enterprise at that point, or free market, whatever you want to call it. But when Pierre Poilievre axes the tax, this again raises the question of what we're going to do when it comes to rich CEO companies, multi-billion-dollar businesses that take advantage of the current situation by overpricing our food, by overpricing our products. They blame the carbon tax. Does anybody here think that when Pierre axes the tax, things are all of a sudden going to get less expensive in stores? Because I can tell you right now, it's not coming our way. Unless they put forward some form of legislation that stops retailers in a form like rent control of raising their prices, or that it has to be within a certain margin of their profits. Because these retailers always use the excuse, oh, we've raised the price because of the carbon tax. We have to pay for these goods to get here. We have to pay for our staff. We have to pay for our own carbon tax on electricity. These are just the costs that we pass on to the consumers. So what happens when the carbon tax goes away and they're enjoying these profits? Sure, fuel pumps can charge less because they won't have an excuse. But retailers are going to start saying, oh, but we have to pay higher wages for our staff. Oh, we have to pay for high rent in this facility, this location. Oh, there's all these reasons we have to continue still charging this much for our products. Here we go. Taxation is theft. I've said the same thing for a long time. There needs to be some form of control, and I don't know how to put it forward like that, because the last thing you want is the government controlling food prices or product prices, because that invests the government in there. But what's to stop these corporations or these companies from not discounting their products when the carbon tax is gone? Because they've just shown in one store, and I'm going to implore you all to take a look when you go to your local grocery store. Once this GST hike goes in place, start remembering current prices of things and notice if they go up, if those specific items that Justin Trudeau has given a GST holiday on have gone up in price. The government sucks. We all know that. And retail sucks because they're taking advantage of us based on our sucky government. And while you have guys like Jagmeet Singh who claim, oh, it's all about filthy rich CEOs, call an election. I'd love to say people should vote with their wallets, because typically that's how you get things cheaper. You stop buying those products. But when it comes to food, when it comes to basic necessities of food, we're talking milk, eggs, butter, bread. People need those things. You can't just stop buying them. I mean, Richard, who can afford regular food? The problem is, how do we get that food to come down once Pierre axes the tax? Yes, your utility companies won't be able to charge you a carbon tax. Your fuel will not be allowed to charge you the extra carbon tax. How do we get retailers? How do we get grocery stores? How do we get clothing? How do we get everything to come back down to where it should be? People always talk about, well, it's cheaper in the United States. Not with the exchange rate. In fact, our dollar is about to get exponentially weaker. So, if anything, Americans are going to be coming up here to get deals because their money is going to go way further. It currently already goes, what, 30 cents on the dollar? 35? I can only imagine how much food costs way up north. It's disgusting. So, like, my mother-in-law lives on her own, and she said that her grocery bill in 1 week went from 200 to 320, and she hasn't changed what she buys. It's in our home. In our home, I have 3 children and my wife, and we're pretty conservative, no pun intended, about how we fill the fridge. We try to introduce healthy options, fruits, vegetables. The problem with those is the cost, but I've always said to Mrs. Fringe, and she agrees, we would rather spend more money on healthy choices and have those for our kids and then have less junk in the fridge or less convenient options if it means they have more nutritious food. But even being modest by buying enough apples or enough bananas or whatever my kids want for their lunches during the week, amongst everything else, our grocery bill used to hover around $200 a week. It's over $400 right now. And we make about the same meals every week. Like people who say, well, we're doing tacos on Tuesday, we're doing pizza on Thursdays, we're doing this meal on this day. That's how this house typically runs. Basically, with our schedules, we kind of have the same meals every week. Now, we don't eat them on the same days, but we know what the kids will eat, we know what we'll eat, we know what time we have. We kind of make the same meals. So we haven't changed our buying options. It's the costs are going up. So how are we supposed to survive? And again, these are the questions we need to ask when people come around looking for our votes. I would love to hear the conservatives tell us not just how they're going to axe the tax, but how they're going to implement a surefire way that guarantees that retailers aren't going to take advantage of consumers anymore. Because they are. If you're going to tell me that Costco is going to shut down if they don't raise the price of their discounted items on Trudeau's tax holiday, I'm going to call bullshit. If you're going to tell me that Walmart is going to go out of business because they charge $3.95 for butter instead of $6, I'm going to call BS on that too. I mean, I have to cash out my own groceries when I go to those stores because there's no employees working there. And all the ones that do don't speak English. Richard saying, I have an indoor grow system, grows enough greens for me. I mean, that's great if you can do that, but a lot of people can't. A lot of people don't have the know-how. Some people don't have the space. Some people don't want to spend the electricity doing that. If they have lights or need anything for special options for those things, it's not to say that you're wrong, but it's just that it doesn't work for everyone is the problem. Marika saying, I work in grocery store for almost 13 years. We, as a family, have drastically changed how we make things in this house. And I only know that from growing up in my household as a child. My mother, she used to smoke a lot in the 80s. I mean, she quit, which was great, but she smoked a lot and she was a stay-at-home mom. And we only had so much budget going around the house that if it came down to food or cigarettes, she knew she had to find a way to get cigarettes. There was often stretched dinners. And don't get me wrong, we lived very well as when I was a kid. But the dinners were often things like meat and potatoes or stew or whatever was cheap and on discount at the grocery store. We weren't doing ribs and chicken too often or things like that. Mom was always happy to make macaroni and cheese for us as kids because it was not only a Canadian classic, but it was affordable. When you talk about things like macaroni and cheese, it's already been covered there on the shrinkflation on products with people taking existing products and charging higher prices, but putting less in the boxes. It's almost as if they're cutting all these corners to try and find ways to screw us out of living. I think that society has forgotten that the idea of working for a living is that you're supposed to be able to work and pay your bills, get what you need if you work hard enough, and still have some money left over to enjoy your life a little bit, to breathe a little bit sometimes. That if once in a while you say, hey, I'd like to go to a hockey game, or I'd like to save up for the next year and go on a vacation next winter, somewhere nice. You should have the option to do those things. If you want to secure some finances and investments, you should be able to start putting away for those things. I really hate that we live in a world right now where my wife goes to her job and they say, hey, we match RSPs. And you hear all the time about people saying, I'd love to get matching on my RSPs and build my wealth. Even though I find RSPs, that's a whole different subject. I think there's better ways to invest than RSPs. However, when a company matches them and doubles your contribution, it would be nice to throw in there, but we can't afford it. Now, I'm not saying we can't. I'm saying we're hearing all the time of people saying they can't afford it. People are saying, I can't even afford to get to work, let alone contribute to savings for my retirement. The government wants battery farms. They want us to just work until we're dead. They made a huge misstep when calculating the retirement age at 65. They didn't expect people to live as long as they are. Essentially, paying out Canada Pension Plan is a scam. They don't want to pay that out. But they didn't expect people to live as long as they are. So now they're making life impossible so that you have to work. So you don't have an option. I see it all the time with viewers telling me, my pension doesn't give me enough to pay my bills. I have to go to work. Ronan chiming in, I'm 31. I can't even get a car, let alone these stupid electric ones. What happens in 2030? That is capitalism, but what I'm saying is that it's not working. Our current system isn't working. And this is where I constantly try to caution people that it's not about our elections anymore. And it's not about who's in charge or who we want to save us or anything else. We have to start asking the questions and demanding results from our leaders, from our representatives, that our lives have to get better at some point because the current system is broken. Justin Trudeau has broken it. We can't do this anymore. There's Snatch. There he is. You'll own nothing and be happy by 2030. That's the problem. People are on the hamster wheel working and working and working and working. They can't get anywhere. I've often talked about why my wife and I were leaving Calgary. A lot of it had to be because of the crime, because we wanted smaller town living. But the biggest factor of it all was we looked at the equity and we looked at the cost of buying a home in a smaller town and said, we can breathe a little. Isn't it stupid that you have to leave a city you've lived in for 30 years to say that the whole reason we're doing it is just so we can survive because it's unlivable? Come on. I shudder to think how people feel that live in like Vancouver or Richmond or Delta or Surrey. People who live in Toronto, people live in Montreal, all these expensive, massive cities. They can't live. You spend your whole life on the hamster wheel, you work your butt off, and for what? Chicken feed. The crumbs. The crumbs that the government throws you. I hope you enjoy the small town living. It is for the better. I'd love to enjoy it. We just pulled our house off the market, actually. We're waiting for spring because we couldn't sell the house. The The market is in such a weird place in Calgary right now. Although things are changing, there were a lot of people waiting on the sidelines. There's first-time buyers that are waiting right now for the rates to come down, or anybody who's going to buy another house for the rates to come down. But the most important thing is that another great thing is happening on the 15th of December, and that is the impossible stress test that was once implemented into house buying is being removed so that people can now qualify based on their current situations. A lot of people are saying that's risky. I don't believe so. I think it's for the best because these stress tests were putting people's, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be buying homes if they can't afford them. But what I'm saying is that those stress tests were putting people in unbelievable categories of realizations that they were testing them at rates of like 7%, 8%, rates that we were never going to see, and then denying them the ability to get out of their rentals, start paying off their own debts to pay into their own pockets simply because of a made up number. I don't agree with that. I agree with a small stress test of a realistic number, but the stress test system that our current real estate rules had in Canada was flawed, and I'm glad to see that go. But I think by spring, the Bank of Canada just lowered their rates today, half a point. I think we're going to see another full point drop by the end of January. At least that's what they're talking, and it's going to put a lot more confidence back into the home market that hasn't been there in any city, not just Calgary. But I think that's a good thing for Canadians who are wanting to get out of rentals, Canadians who are wanting to get, again, a home that they can afford. Keep in mind that rates were almost at 4.5% to 5% at one point a few months ago. They're now inching their way down to the low threes, high twos. Again, when we re-signed our mortgage in 2020, we were at 2.9. So getting close to that mark tells me that things are getting better. In a sense, lower interest rates don't necessarily mean better for Canadians, by the way. Better if you're going to be purchasing a home. I'm actually at some point going to have some real estate folks on to talk about the risks and where they see the markets going in these major cities. Because I'll tell you right now, when we started looking at the smaller town living, it's very beneficial if you can afford to find the work and move out of the big cities, to find somewhere more affordable and even commute if you can to your job. So I'd love to have somebody on the show soon to talk about that. I've got a few people lined up for that. If you can have a side hustle, it can make a difference, says Danny. Absolutely it can. But the problem that I want to address is that when you wind the clocks back, when you look at the 1960s, the 1970s, the average, we'll say a postal worker. I don't want to talk too much about postal workers because I'm mad at their unions, but the average postman, postwoman, whatever you want to call them, female man, they could deliver mail for a living and pay their mortgage and have a stay-at-home full-time parent. They could go on vacation. Their houses didn't cost them a kidney. Things were simpler then. They could invest. They could have money left over. All they had to do was work hard for a living at one job, one full-time job. Nowadays, I run into people that say, oh, I drive an Uber, or I go to Uber Eats after work, or I work a full-time job and then a side hustle on the side, or I do things on the internet to try and make money. Everybody's got a side gig because a full-time job no longer cuts it. In fact, I've heard of people with full-time jobs that work almost 70 hours a week and they're taxed to death on their overtime. The system is no longer designed for regular hardworking people to get ahead. It's designed for our government to get ahead. It's designed for anybody who's going to do slimy tactics to get ahead. The rich people get ahead. The common working folk, they're stuck in a rut. They can't get anywhere. Ingrid saying buying a house is now a pipe dream for many. That's the problem, is that, and with the costs always going up, it used to be like when my wife and I bought our home, we had to have roughly $20,000 to put down. And we thought that was a stretch. Nowadays, people need to have $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 kicking around unborrowed just to get in. So by the time they hit the 40,000 mark, They all of a sudden need 50,000, then they need 60,000, then they need 70,000. It just keeps going up. They're never going to get there. At the very least, take your money, go to Vegas, put it all on black and try to double it and get a boost while you can. Either way, you're losing the money, right? You'd be better off just knowing at that point if you're going to get it or not. It's called supply and demand. Too many people drive wages down and increase prices. That's part of the problem, is that Derek, don't even get me started on CMHC. I think that is a scam. I've never liked CMHC. But the problem when it comes to our system, when you talk about people spending money at times when they shouldn't be, it all goes back in full circle to people coming here from other countries that are being given $9,000 a month to enjoy their lives. They're the ones that I see shopping when I go out to the outlet malls, when I go anywhere to try and get a deal on something, and they've got bags all over the place because they don't have any real bills. So while stores are raising their prices, they're spending all of our tax dollars that the government gives them to buy all these nice and lavish things. They're all driving BMWs and Audis. They're living the high life. I mentioned earlier that I always tell people, vote with your wallets. But it's impossible when the government's giving the wrong people all this free money. They will be a superclass of elitists that own the earth. I think it's the goal. When's the last time the government did the right thing? Seriously? I wish I knew the answer to that. When the RCMP doesn't police government properly, we don't have a system that we should trust and keep. But those are the problems. Those are the problems with our system. And that's where I'm saying that our next election is critical, that it's beyond just axing the tax. It's beyond building homes and stopping crime. I'm for all those things. I think all of those are great things. But what we need are real answers from people. Like, I hear it all the time, the excuses that people make whenever I criticize Pierre Poilievre's slogans, when I'm being told, he doesn't want to speak his plan because Trudeau's just going to copy it. Trudeau can't afford to copy Pierre's plans. He can't. There's nothing he can look at him trying to copy a break for people with this GST thing. He can't compete with Pierre. What we need from folks like Pierre is for them to come out and say, I'm going to put in legislation that ensures that when I axe the tax, retailers aren't going to take advantage of consumers anymore. I'm going to stop giving migrants coming into the country $9,000 a month. I'm going to start driving down privatization in utility companies to make sure people are paying a fair amount on their utility bills while we're building homes. We're going to make wages reflect the cost of living so that people are working an average job, a regular 40-hour-a-week job. And if you do a good job, you get rewarded for it. You can afford to save. You can afford to buy a home. You can afford to live. People are going to hate me for saying this because a lot of people that watch this national wide that don't like Alberta, you ever see guys in Abu Dhabi having a hard time paying their bills? Or the Middle East? Could you imagine if we were allowed to get our oil out to market? If we were allowed to continue providing transfer payments to the rest of the country and sharing the wealth? If we were allowed to go full bore with it, could you imagine how difficult life would be for Canadians when they could make a decent wage? When they could afford their homes? When they could live well? All we got to do is turn on the taps. We got to allow our farmers to produce goods. We got to allow our lumber industry to produce lumber. We got to allow people to get to work instead of putting their boots on the necks. I'm so sick and tired of everybody. My friends joke about it when I go back to Winnipeg and they introduce me to someone. One of my good friends introduces me to somebody one time and says, oh, he doesn't get it because he's from Alberta. All they care about is oil. Yeah, because that's where the money is. You have to. You have to care about the money. And again, Albertans have been very generous. I don't know many Albertans that say when we're prosperous, we shouldn't be sharing with the rest of the country. Of course we should. Of course we should help out. We're part of Canada. We're Canada. We need to start saying that more often. I used to love in the late 90s the old Molson Canadian commercials that said, I am Canadian. We need to get back to that. Because right now we're all so divided. We're all in these little groups. And I'll tell you right now, when I go around and you start seeing people waving Canadian flags, it gives you this feeling. It's like a feeling of nostalgia. The same feeling I get when I look at these games behind me of my childhood. I look at the Canadian flag and go, God, I miss that. I miss that. I miss people being proud of this country. I miss people openly loving their country and not being called misogynists. Why can't we get back to that? I've talked before many times, and people are probably sick of the broken record. When I went to the United States, and you see American flags everywhere on people's porches, on their trucks, on their cars, in stores, on the sides of roads, people just waving them wherever they can because they love their country. And I always say to my wife, isn't it sad that we have to say that that isn't present in our country? Everybody in this channel, everybody on this community loves this country. People have said it all the time. I'm Canadian through and through. I love Canada. I love Canada too. But why is it wrong for us to love our country? Why is it wrong for us to wave our flags, celebrate Canada, be proud to be Canadian? I'm ashamed of my government, but I love my country. Pierre talks about Canada first. You hear all this stuff about Trump saying, Governor Trudeau and 51st state. I'd rather be Canadian. As much as I love America and as much as I love Americans, I have a blast anytime I go down to the States. I'm Canadian. I'm Canada. I could flee this country tomorrow and go live in the United States. I don't. Because I want to fix what's broken here. That's part of the reason this channel exists. It exists to push whatever we can to get people to wake up, to get people to love their country again, to start waving our flags, to start singing "O Canada" the way it was meant to be sung, without the woke injections into it. I got in shit last night because I went to my daughter's Christmas celebration, and the people behind me heard me say to my father, when they opened up and started talking about, we acknowledge the land that we're on and that it came from indigenous people. And I went, oh. And my old man goes, what? And I said, white guilt. Here we go. White guilt at the beginning of a concert. I almost went full Peter Griffin. Oh, you know what really grinds my gears? Sitting at this Christmas concert, listening to white shame. Who needs it? I know where the land came from. We don't have to acknowledge it every 5 minutes. We don't have to feel guilty for things. We conquered this country hundreds of years ago. Get over it. That's the reality. I don't care if you're labeled a racist. The flag and the country are called Canada. It's not called whatever that would be in Indigenous. And it's no disrespect to the Indigenous. You don't see people walking around the United States saying, hey, we used to have slaves a long time ago. We should acknowledge slavery every time we go to a hockey game, anytime we start a baseball game, anytime we do something at a school. We should have big flags up on the wall acknowledging that the country we live in was built by slaves that were shoved into their own unmarked gravestones. Give me a break. Are we proud of our history? Are we proud of where we came from? No, there's some dark times in history. Of course not. But we've learned from those things. I'm so sick and tired. Like if somebody says to me, if somebody's Indigenous and they say to me, I really hate that the land was stolen. I go, yeah, I hate it too. But it's a dark part of our history. We're not stealing it right this moment. We're not abusing you. Be Canadian. Anybody's free to leave at any point. I'm free to go to the United States anytime I want. I could go to the US. I could go apply for citizenship. If I didn't like it here, I could go. I could go somewhere. Clown Piss of the 279 Super Chat. Trudeau's cricket farm, $10 million on taxpayer dollars. Well, absolutely. I mean, Master of Snatch hits it here. You should have been born inside Canada in order to run for any elected position. I mean, that opens up the doors for a lot of other things. The problem, and I got to get back to this Indigenous thing. The problem isn't the Indigenous. The problem isn't acknowledging things. The problem is why this has been injected into our society. It's making us weak. Pierre Poilievre talks about a weak prime minister. They're making our country weak. Have you seen the kids that are growing up in our country right now in their skinny jeans and their lattes? They couldn't defend themselves with a government-issued shovel. If you missed my video about shovels, it's making us soft. When we all sit around kumbayaing and talking about our feelings all the time, I don't care about the past. Let's make things better for the future. Learn from the past, build a better future. Start worrying about the fact, again, can you afford groceries right now? Can you go out and wave your flag? Are you allowed to protest your government? Are you allowed to defend yourself? Are you allowed to have certain tools on your farm to hunt for what you need? Those are the things we should be worried about. Anytime they inject this, oh, let's acknowledge this, let's talk about that, let's feel about this, let's send money to these guys, let's dole this out over here. They don't care about us. They don't care about what we're going through. Again, this is why we have the most opportune moment in the next few months when these elected officials start coming out of the woodwork to pander for our votes because they need them. They need them for their jobs. We have to start asking those questions. When are we going to stop doing these national days of this, that, and the other thing? And before you call me a racist, keep in mind, Justin Trudeau, the first National Day of Reconciliation, went surfing. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. It's just pandering. But it's destroying us. Instead of worrying about everything else that happens, start asking your politicians, what are we going to do to bridge those gaps while also making this country better for Canadians? I don't like my kids coming home from school on Orange Shirt Day asking, why do we wear orange shirts at school? And what is it about all these children that we're hearing about? Well, I know you're only 7 years old, but let me explain to you about residential schools and the gruesome history that sits behind them. Which, by the way, there's still some pieces of that puzzle that are missing, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. But due to censorship, we can't get into that. What we should be teaching our kids is, here's how to do your taxes. Here's how to do basic mathematics. Here's how to do cursive handwriting. Here's some knowledge for you. Here's some knowledge about the past so that you're not repeating that with tomorrow's leaders. Can we just get back to building a strong country? One that's proud of its heritage, one that's proud to be here. And when somebody says death to Canada and burns our flags in the streets, we kick them in the ass and put them on an airplane and tell them to get out of here. Can we get back to that, please? When somebody says, I'm offended, we say, I don't care. What's it going to take for us to get back there? And that's why I'm saying when guys like Pierre come around, not Pierre personally, but other MPs that want you to vote for them. Because again, remember, you're not voting for Pierre. I have to vote for Stephanie Cousy when she comes around to my door. Some people might have to vote for Andrew Scheer if you live in Saskatchewan. Ask them. You're my representative. What are you doing to move us forward? Michelle Rempel-Garnier said it the best. Enough of the woke shit. When are we going to stop? That world isn't coming back, but that's not good enough. I get why you feel that way, but you ever hear the saying, one man can make a difference? And before you say, well, it doesn't work, it doesn't happen. Everybody gets tired of me hitting this nail, but look at the Freedom Convoy. They said, it won't be anything. The government wasn't worried about it when they first heard rumblings that truck drivers were going to go to Ottawa. The problem was they did it in numbers. Their numbers grew. And when they showed up, the government was shitting their pants. You think the world can't go back to that? All we have to do is get enough like-minded people together to start telling our government, we're not going to be satisfied unless you're prepared to give us what we need. You're all going to be out of a job. Revolt. Not violently. Can't promote that on the channel. You're going to start seeing the same thing that happened in the United States. If guys like Pierre Poilievre don't back up their claims, not saying he won't, but if you start seeing that it's all part of one big uniparty that people always talk about in the comment sections, you're going to have a Donald Trump show up. You're going to have somebody come in and form a party, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, when people get tired enough, you're going to have somebody from outside come in and say, someone's got to clean up this mess. And they're not going to do it anytime soon, so I'm coming in to do it. And that person's going to have enough backing. Look at how the media attacks Donald Trump. And all he wants to do is make America great again. He loves his country, and he's a criminal for that. Because it goes against all of these organizations that want to destroy it. He's the answer to their problems. Not every problem, but he's the answer to the problems of the common man who pays their taxes and is getting nothing for it. He's the anti-politician. We need that here. We need somebody here who's going to tell the politicians, we're going to put you back in your cribs, and a real man's going to come in and run this country. We're going to cut. Did you guys watch the video from today about the $100 billion, the quarter of our budget that goes into NGOs, where all of this money is transferred to? Billions of dollars that could be saving our country, but we're giving it to all of these outlets that waste our money, my money, your money. Keep in mind, when people are talking about side hustles, when you're talking about your job where you're working 70 hours a week, that's so you can give them part of this $100 billion for them to just throw out every year. Is Ken RV plugging his channel again? Is he doing that? God, he's so slimy. I'm just kidding, Ken RV. I'm not getting on there. Yes, and you know it was all about the $6 billion, and they're pocketing it. Don't you think it's fishy? $6 billion. It's not them having to implement it. It's the business. You know, it's a scam. We've talked about it. And here's Snatch. They use that money to facilitate mass immigration. Yeah. Snatch is a wise man. You guys should listen to Snatch. I keep saying I wish he'd come on the show, even through audio only, just to chat government. Smart guy. Probably why I look up to him so much and respect him. But I'll tell you, things need to get better in this country. But ladies and gentlemen, the good news is, well, Ken RV, hey, listen, I'm married, but hey, you got to buy me dinner at least first before you say those things. I've seen JD say this a few times, so let's cover this. Meal planning is something I do so I won't waste any food. I shop every week. and no food ends up in the garbage because it went bad. I got it down to a science. That's great. I can tell you in my house with 3 kids, unfortunately, some things get wasted because, kids are picky, kids are finicky. We run out of time. I'll tell you, there's a reason my dog is so bloody fat. It's because he gets a lot of the scraps. He jumps up, he steals food. We can't eat the rest. He finds my kids an easy target. But hey, things happen. Things happen. The good news, folks, and while I go on this whole tirade of what needs to change, as we talked about everything here of Justin Trudeau's cruel joke of this supposed GST break that is making prices go up anyways. When you see guys like Donald Trump, whether you like Donald Trump or hate Donald Trump, you've seen this mass awakening in the United States of people excited for the future. People are excited for what's on the horizon, for their lives to get easier. And it's slowly taking its effect in Canada as well. People are getting excited for our next election. We're going to see Pierre come in. We're going to see some change. It was always darkest before the dawn, but the dawn's coming, ladies and gentlemen, and it's almost here. Only a little bit of time. Little bit of time. We're not going to have to hear Jagmeet Singh's voice anymore. We're not going to have to hear Trudeau anymore. We're not going to have any more woke nonsense, hopefully. And we can get back to normal. Better days are coming. When Justin Trudeau made his acceptance speech in 2015, he should have said sunny ways in 10 years. Because that's what's coming. The actual sunny ways are coming. Pierre better right the ship. I hope he does. I hope he does. Kids all need a civics class on how the government works and work in an election. It's funny because I've often said on this channel, I don't talk politics as much as I can around my kids. I try to pull back a bit because I don't want to influence them on politics. The problem, and I'll finish on that I've even told my children, when they grow up, I want them to do their research. I want them to know what policies they're voting for, not somebody who has good looks or somebody who gives you free money. Look at policy, get educated. I mean, in this house, you got to know, ladies and gentlemen, my kids will be educated on politics. But I've even told them, if you ever voted Liberal, you've got the right to. If you voted for the NDP, you've got a right to. I always try to leave that open for my kids, that no matter how you vote, I'll be proud of you for just doing your civic duty and voting, because a lot of people don't. But I can tell you right now that when we went to parent-teacher interviews a couple weeks ago, the first thing my daughter's teacher says, as my daughter goes to school wearing unacceptable fringe t-shirts and hoodies, I know she sneaks onto this channel and watches the live stream so much. She's proud of what her dad does. But they said, anytime we talk about Ukraine, anytime we talk about anything going on in the world, they said, Harley is so eager to jump into the conversation and have her say, and they said, sometimes it's a little controversial, but you know what? She's very smart. She's very intelligent. And my wife kind of just seized for a second, but then realized it's a good thing. It's a good thing that she's got a head on her shoulders. It's important with our next generations that we teach our kids about how the government works. I don't want to influence my kids how to vote, but I definitely want them to understand how the government works and how sometimes the things they talk about aren't necessarily in the best interest of us. How it's designed to protect them and not for us. So that they understand that when they make money and we take a portion of it away, they understand that's how taxation works. So that when they're older, there's no sticker shock and them saying, well, we just want universal basic income or we want an easy way out. That's not how the world works. But I can tell you, after going to that parent-teacher interview, boy, I'm so proud of my little Harley Quinn. She is so smart. Maybe she'll be a politician one day. Who knows? Who knows? It's we'll see where it goes. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's end things on a positive note. Let's get into some Q&A. Let's wrap up the old stream. Why can't I block Anne Graham in your chat? Tried a few times, getting sick of her comments about your viewers. I'm not too sure. I'll look into the chat after the stream, the stream, JD. How is your big fat head? It's getting better. It's still swollen with my ego, but it's okay. Everything's okay. We'll get into some Q&A. I'm sorry, JD, too, for your frustration. I've had it with some of the, I don't know what's going on in this channel lately. I've had so many people that have been negative in the comment section over the last few weeks that come in and start dropping, hey, you're fat. Hey, you're this, you're that, you're stupid, oink, oink. And it's like, if you think that bothers, if you think that I've gone my whole life without somebody saying, hey, Derek, you're fat, give me a break. First off, go back to grade 5. Second of all, I've heard it all before. It doesn't faze me. You just look stupid. I don't know what the attacks are for these days. I don't know why so many people come in. I mean, I was accused of stealing Moose on the Loose's video when talking about the money that's wasted on NGOs today. I didn't even know David did a video on that. In fact, I've always said I don't watch other channels for that reason, because I don't want them to ever feel like I'm stealing things. In fact, the tweet that I showed in that video was sent to me. I was tagged in it. And a lot of people do that on Twitter. They'll tag myself, the pleb, Moose on the Loose, all the channels they watch in a tweet. So if I cover that, I cover it. Deal with it. Nobody's holding a gun to your head to be here. Get over yourselves. I'm loaded with retro gamer expertise. I'm not fat and big boned. What's this? What's this, Luca? Again, the Decepticons. You need an Autobots shirt. I will not wear. Listen, I love Soundwave. Soundwave was one of my favorite Transformers. My wife got me this one, and then my green hockey jersey is a Devastator jersey. I almost convinced Mrs. Fringe to buy me a Devastator figure set for Christmas, but I just can't spend that kind of money. Let's get into the Q&A. Let's get into the Q&A. I'll be looking for the questions. Yes, all hail Lord Megatron. There we go. Why can't I find Amanda Hug and Kiss, says Mystical. Well, if that's what floats your boat, I'm sure there's some places you could look for one. Money always talks, I hear. Reg coming in. Derek, all the Fringe are waiting for you and Tiffany and your family here in Spruce Grove. Know that we are waiting. I know you guys are waiting. Again, I'm hoping that in the new year, as soon as things pick up, it could be earlier than spring. We've kept an eye on the market, and we've just said as soon as things pick up again, the problem with us was that we were on the market for too long. We started selling just before September long weekend. It's December. We had a guy come in here. The house was listed just below 600,000 in the 590s. We had a guy come in Sunday and offer us 545. They came down 50 grand. And it's just because we're on the market for too long. We knew at that point, that's all we're going to get now is low balls, people thinking we're desperate. So we pulled. We want to come back on the market when things are speedy, when there's more optimism in the real estate market, so that it's a quick sell and we can get out of here. So that's going to be the plan moving forward. LS saying, are you and the wife planning, hoping, or having more children? Well, we'd love to, but we can't. When my Can RV, no, we haven't sold it. We pulled it off the market yesterday. We're waiting for spring. It's people in Calgary right now are looking for deals. They're looking to bottom people out. We're not falling for it. It's so as for kids, as for the question, I should get to the question. When we had my middle child, Wade, Tiffany had an issue where Wade was tangled up. We almost lost Tiffany and Wade on the table. They had to do an emergency C-section. And at that time, the doctors told us afterwards, like, we just thought it was just a misstep or a miscalculation in things. We were grateful that everything worked out. But afterwards, we found out that things were hanging by a thread, that we almost lost both of them on the table by seconds. It was scary. But doctors had informed us after that any future children we had would have to be C-section. That we ran a risk of having more kids, and Tiffany and I had a chat afterwards. Do we want to have more kids? She said, I always wanted 3. I want 3. We had the third, and my littlest Steve. And while they were doing the C-section, Mrs. Fringe just said, you know what? Cut the tubes, because you're in there anyways. It saves me from a procedure. So unless I go out there and have more kids, Mrs. Fringe and I are done, which I don't think that's going to happen. What's the Mike saying? Wade Wilson and Harley Quinn, you nerd. Yeah, well, my son's is Steve Rogers. So there you go. We do. All my kids' middle names are their counterparts in comics. I do have a Harley Quinn, I do have a Wade Wilson, and I do have a Steve Rogers. And I don't care if it makes me a nerd. I think it's awesome. Their schools love it. It's so no more kids. I lost my 32-year-old daughter to wokeism. I'm sorry. I hope it's just like a break and not that you lost them. Is your favorite movie Roadhouse? Or is it Roadhouse? No, my favorite movie is Back to the Future, but Roadhouse definitely ranks up there. Couple more quarter point drops and it'll turn into a seller's market again. It's already, Stinger, it's funny. When I talked to the realtor today, they said it was already turning into a seller's market earlier than they predicted. Like, it's starting to pick up already in December. January, February are typically the slower parts of the year, but they're saying it's already showing signs of improvement late December. And with the rate cut today, I think that's going to be that's going to be it. Not little Timmy, the BJ Queen from Saskatoon. No, we're not naming that to my kids. No. But my son is the Merc with the mouth. What do you think about the deficit announcement they were making on Monday? I think it's going to be a load of hogwash. They're just going to dance around it like they're heroes, that everything's fine. We're in trouble. We all know that. Favorite podcast? Joe Rogan. Hands down. Got to watch my Joe. Yo, Joe. Whose jokes aren't funny? I missed it. Whose jokes aren't funny? Let's see. Have you signed the petition on MRG's page and seen her video today about Bill 63? I haven't. I'll go check that out. Favorite character from G.I. Joe? Serpentor. Or Snake Eyes. One of the two. What else do we have in here? Does Canada get a Luigi, or do we get his twin? I got to be careful on that one because those videos are being heavily crushed. A lot of people wanted me to talk about what happened with that. I seen Viva covered it. I'd maybe recommend go check out Viva because as a lawyer, he's got some pretty good takes on it. I'm just trying to be careful these days because the shadow ban's already in full effect on the channel. I want to be able to meet you and your wife because there's so much we agree and disagree on. Well, hopefully you don't want to meet me because of disagreements. Those usually result in a few fists getting thrown around these days anyways. But Reg, no, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to do a meet and greet as soon as we get out there. Okay, Anne Graham. I'll look into that after the show. I don't try to silence or ban people, but I can see that there's been a bit of an issue here tonight. I know somebody had mentioned it earlier. Sorry, I'm trying to get caught up in the Q&A. Never saw the second Roadhouse. I'm scared to be disappointed. Billy, you're not going to be. It's actually not a bad movie. I liked it. Yo, Reg, thanks for popping in. Ever owned Mr. Stretch? Are you talking about like Stretch Armstrong? I had a Stretch Armstrong. In fact, I bought one for my kids not too long ago. Come on, guys. The Q&A's, we got to get the Q&A in here. I'm not seeing many questions in here. You can ask me anything as long as it's appropriate, guys. Throw those questions in. Let's get some... usually this is the fun time because people ask a lot of cool nerd questions or politics questions. Godfather 1, 2, or 3, I got to be honest, I didn't care for them. Any of them. I got bored. I know that's a travesty to some people. I didn't like it. Who's your favorite prime minister? I'd probably say John A. Macdonald because he's the first. He's the first. He was prime minister when people were still trying to build this country, when they cared. Star Wars. Star Wars all the way. Original Star Wars. What is your monthly hydro bill in Alberta? 0 because we don't have hydro. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I don't know. Definitely not in Ottawa because she can't afford to be. How is Dragon's Lair doing? It's still operational. It's still in the back. Have you seen the Samtronic retro gaming console? I haven't. I've heard about it. Haven't seen it. Who do you think the Libs will put up after Trudeau? I think it's going to be Mark Carney. I think Carney's going to weasel his way in there. I think he's the only hope that they have to try and rebuild their party. Favorite character of Lord of the Rings? None. I don't watch Lord of the Rings. It's 3 movies about walking. I can't get into Lord of the Rings. Do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie? David, we talked about this on stream. If you missed it, yeah, absolutely I do. Absolutely. I'm sorry to anybody who likes Lord of the Rings. I can't get into it. I think there are so many better properties than Lord of the Rings. What are your thoughts on the so-called Iran drones from the mothership in the States? I haven't heard much about it. I'll look into it. Sorry, I couldn't answer that, JD. What made you choose up by Edmonton to move to? Just curious as we were closer to Calgary ourselves. For me, my brother's moving from Delta, BC to Spruce Grove. And honestly, it was the cost of living. It's when we looked at the cost of houses in Calgary and then we looked at it there, like we were saving almost $250,000 to get a comparable house in Calgary to the size that we were buying in Spruce or Stony. We went up there one weekend just to look around and I fell in love with the place and my kids liked it. And we're still close enough we can come back to visit my family in Calgary. So we kind of just settled and said, this is where we want to be. Can you please send Tamara a text and let her know that her balls are bigger than Pierre's? I'm going to have Tamara on the channel before Christmas. Land of Seven Lakes. At least that's the plan. As long as we can keep your eyes open, I'll have Tamara on a stream very soon. You can tell her yourself, but I'll let her know. Yeah, I don't want to chime in too much on the mayor of Emo. I'm saving that for a video. Keep your eyes open on that one. That's not true, is it? Is this true? Or is this a joke? If this is true, the show's over. It's not going to happen. It's going to be no different than Rings of Power or whatever that Lord of the Rings spinoff was. It's going to fall apart. How often do you get to play your games? Do the kids dig it? Yeah, Steve, the kids love the arcade. In fact, my youngest Steve is down here almost more than I am. Typically, when my kids go to bed and the wife goes to bed, like my wife's up early, I kick back and play games. I used to do streams where I'd play games on the channel, but then people came in and said, I'm here to hear you talk about politics. So I stopped the streams, but I love my retro games. I try to play as often as I can. that's how I unwind. That's my relaxation. I don't watch a lot of TV or things. It's the gaming for me. It just brings back fun childhood memories. So I try to do it as much as I can. Even Bruce said that it's not a Christmas movie. Yeah, but Bruce, he's got dementia or something, isn't it? We'll give him a pass. He's sick. Have you heard about the bird? The bird is the word. Do you or do you not know that the bird is the word? I love how everybody throws that in once in a while. That's always fun. I think I'm going to do the, you know what really grinds my gears segment here on the channel soon. I think we're going to start doing that once in a while in the streams. Do you think Justin will have forcibly removed as leader of the Liberal Party? He can't. The rules are in his favor. Do you think Carney wants to inherit that mess? Freeland will be the bag holder if he resigns. If he resigns, yes, but Carney will want to take on that mess because he's going to come in with a whole new bag of toys to make things harder for everybody else and benefit his friends. Of course, he's going to take it. Do you like Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon movies? Yeah, that when he fought Chuck Norris, amazing. Love Bruce Lee. Favorite real Christmas movie? National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Sadly, I haven't watched it yet this season. This Christmas season. I'm going to get to it. Amir being fined for not flying the pride flag. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a video. We're going to get into it. I'm going to do a video on that one. Edmonton may be cheaper, but it's so much more dangerous. Stayed there a few years getting my degree. Yeah, so that's one of the things I like about Spruce is it's not Edmonton. I know people say, well, it's a bedroom community to Edmonton. It's far enough away. I've looked at the crime rates. Everything's fine. Any bites on the house yet? No, Night of Flema, if you joined late, we pulled the house from the market. We're going to resell in the spring when it's busy. We got lowballed on Sunday and just said that's it. Oh, yeah, somebody answered it in the questions too. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get caught up. There are questions in here. I'm trying to get caught up in the chat, guys. Favorite Archie Bunker quote? Oh, come on. How do you have a favorite? They're all classic. Carol O'Connor's a genius. I love that show. Anytime he brings up Meathead, it's always good. When are we going to see Dragon Lair on the stream? We got Dragon Lair lined up for Monday or for Friday night. Dragon's Lair will be appearing as a guest on the stream. So keep your eyes peeled for Dragon's Lair Machine. What are your thoughts on Sonic 3 and Knuckles on the Genesis? I mean, it's a masterpiece. Michael Jackson did the music for Sonic 3. I don't know if some people know that. Batman Returns is also a Christmas movie. Yes, it is. The turd is the word, or the turd is absurd? Don't you know about the turd? Well, Peter's going to tell you about the turd. Let's go. I'm getting caught up. Guys, I'm sorry for the silence. I'm trying to get caught up. We are caught up. We caught up. Did you see the recent Sonic 3 Shadow clip? No. In fact, I've got... I actually just went and got the tickets to take my kids to Sonic next weekend in Calgary just before Christmas. So I'm trying not to watch too much because I honestly enjoy those movies. I think for video game adaptations, they've done the movie pretty well. This upcoming weekend, I'm going to Edmonton with my kids because thanks to Canada Post, I have to get my deposit back for the property that we had to cut out of in Spruce Grove. So I have to meet up with our realtor. My kids were disappointed because I told them when we moved to Spruce, because originally we sold the house and our buyers backed out, that we were going to take them to Galaxyland and West Edmonton Mall and let them have a day at the rides before they went to their new schools. And they were sad to see that we have to wait for spring for that. So I'm actually going to take my kids over the weekend while we're up there. We'll get our deposit back from the realtor. For some reason, the builders didn't want to do an EFT. So we'll go up there to get our deposit, and then I'm going to take my kids to Galaxyland for the day. and have some fun in Edmonton on Saturday. And then the weekend after, we'll take them to Sonic before Christmas. It's going to be a busy week and a bit in this house, but we actually just got all of the Christmas stuff out that we could anyways. I'm not taking all of it out before Christmas because we left so much of it packed away while we were doing house viewings. So I'm looking forward to the time that we do get between now and then. Are your kids going to see Moana 2? I'm sure they'll see it when it's streaming. We're not going to theaters for that. It's not happening. Not happening. What do you think of the Mario Brothers the movie? Are you talking about the 90s one or the new one? I think they're both awesome. I like the 90s one because it's so campy and stupid. It's laughable, and honestly, I own it because I think it's hilarious. The newest one, I think they did it great. I thought they did a great job. I thought they did an amazing job on that movie, actually. That being said, ladies and gents, I'm going to try to get some time in with Mrs. Fringe before she heads off to bed. I know she needs some help with the kids. I can hear Steve having a tantrum upstairs as we speak. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap up Q&A. We're going to wrap up the stream. I want to thank everybody who came into the stream tonight, everybody for the super chats, Goldwing Ben for becoming a new member, Clown Piss for the super chat. Thanks so much to everybody who popped into the stream tonight. Join me this Friday, for Friday Night Fringe with Mrs. Fringe here in the stream. It's going to be great. I can't wait to sit down and chat with you guys about more things that are going on in politics this week as we head into the weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for new content dropping on the channel tomorrow. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the video. And with that being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.